Hi everyone, welcome back to the next part of our Farmall F14 project. Today we're going to be pulling the cover off the rear differential and gearbox back here. That's this cover here, and it will expose everything in the gearbox and the diff so that we can have a good look at it and make sure that all the gears are okay, the bearings are okay and things like that. So the steering wheel and column need to come off here. I've already undone the flexible coupling up the front here. This plate needs to come off. We'll probably take the seat bracket off here as well, and then and the gear lever, and then we should be able to lift this cover off and have a look and see how everything looks in there. Okay, so we're going to start by removing this front bracket. It's pretty badly rusted, so I hope we're going to be able to get in there and actually get those bolts undone. It's not looking overly promising. As long as we can get some sort of spanner onto these bolts, we'll be able to get them undone somehow. There's also not a lot left of this cover under here, unfortunately. So we may have to do something interesting to try and get this cover back on again. In cases like this where you have tried the bolts and they feel like they're going to break off, shock therapy is often a good thing to try. So we're going to just put a chisel straight down on the head of the bolt and hit straight down. This just puts a shock down through all the threads and helps to break any of the rust that's in there holding the two pieces together. And sometimes they will just come undone after that. You have to be a bit careful hitting any cast iron parts because they are quite brittle and you can damage the parts. I see here that we actually have rust holes going right through the gearbox cover, so that's not good. And always try doing the bolts up as well, and just working them a little bit at a time till they come loose. Okay, first bolt out. Now these next ones, we've got no hope of even getting a spanner onto them. So we are just going to give them a tap down the same as the other ones. This also helps to break all the rust free. We can see now we've got quite big holes in here, so that's a bit of an issue. Okay, so if there's enough of a bolt head and enough space, we can get onto the bolts with a pair of vice grips and Hopefully they will come undone. These feel like they're just going to slip off. Okay, so we have several other options here, as they're not going to just come undone easily. We could cut the head of the bolt off, and once we take this plate off there'll be a small amount sticking out, hopefully that we could get some vice grips onto and get them out with. We can also give them a little bit more shock therapy. So I'm just going to use a cold chisel, and I'm going to try and rotate them with the cold chisel. This works really well on nuts, less well on bolts, but we'll give it a go anyway. One of the other things that often will work too is if we heat the bolt up red hot and then let it cool a little bit, or drop some water onto it and try and keep the rest of the casting underneath it warm. The temperature difference and therefore the expansion difference help to loosen them sometimes. Here I was today thinking this was going to be an easy project. There you go, we've got the first one loose. There's just not enough of the head of this bolt left to get any sort of spanner on at all. Now, if I had seen these ones at the beginning, I would also have put a bit of penetrating oil on them to soak in. That really helps if you can do that at the start of your project. It helps free up all of these bolts, but I didn't see these when I was doing it. And you always end up with the bolts that you miss somewhere in your project. Second bolt out. Well, now that we've got that plate off, we can see just how badly damaged, how much corrosion damage there is in here. So we're going to have to cut out a section of this plate and remake it. Anyway, we'll get on and see what else we find in here. I am not an expert on this particular type of tractor, so I have no idea how the gearbox on it actually works, as neutral is actually up and down and the gears go left and right, so it will be interesting to have a look in there and see how that all works. There's the gear selector. That little ball sits down in the selector mechanisms down in the gear lever, and that's what we use to actually change gears with. Okay, so the next thing to take off is this seat bracket here. It just has 2 bolts on this flange here. Hopefully, maybe we'll leave this on for the moment. Things don't always come off as easily as we sometimes hope they will. And of course then we always run the risk of breaking bolts, which always makes the job more difficult when you've got to get a broken bolt out. It's always best if we can make things come undone at the beginning. Okay, that is coming undone, that's good. So these seem to just be dowels in here, and we've just got a couple of nuts to screw on them, and hopefully this will draw them up and out of there. So yeah, a dowel with a threaded top on them. I've not come across them before. I'm sure the Farmall experts have got a much better way of getting them out than I just did. But that's okay. hopefully you learn something new every day. Okay, so we've got the top cover off the little Farmall now. This is the gearbox up the front. The diff here is in the middle, that's part of the cross that goes through the spider gears there, with the brake shafts coming out either side here, and then they drive the large bull gear back here, which runs the back wheels. Got our PTO shaft down the bottom here. So this is a slightly unusual gearbox in this model. Most gearboxes have the shafts running that way through them. This one has the bevel gear right up the front here on the input shaft, and then the gear shafts all run east-west, horizontally, whatever you want to call it. 90 degrees to normal gearboxes, which means that everything behind there, instead of having a bevel gear running onto your diff gear, everything now is running in the right direction. This is a rather unusual way to do it. I have not seen this before. So yeah, that's interesting. Everything in here with just a quick visual inspection looks all right. I can't see any teeth that are missing or broken off the gears. I'm sure that as we get further down into there, we'll find that just about every bearing in here is worn out because of the amount of work that this tractor's supposed to have done. But just on initial wriggling of things, it doesn't feel too bad in here, so that's good. Always you find a little bit of wear on these teeth. You can see on these that the hard facing has worn off and they're a little bit pitted. This really isn't going to matter for this tractor. It's going to be sitting in a museum most of its life, and I might occasionally get it out and pull something with it, but it's just going to be sitting around most of the time. So yeah, we'll clean this up. We'll have a good inspection of it and work out where we go next with it. We will probably be changing a lot of the seals and things for the input shaft and the axle seals and the PTO seals, and we're probably going to end up changing some bearings and things like that. Anyway, I hope you've learned a little bit from this, and I hope to see you again next time. Thanks, bye.